Okay, hello, my name is Naya Oster, and I was the person selected to grade your paper. So, at the very beginning, what you're supposed to have is a context, which is pretty much just like a background piece of information. And so for your context, you pretty much just said the Hans and Roman attitudes towards technology are very similar. So I guess you just didn't really understand what that is. So the contextualization, I'll read you what it's defined by AP World History, is to situate the argument by explaining a broader historical event, development, or process immediately relevant to the question. So what I put as things that you could have done for your context were city-states, which kind of contextualizes the place, both the Roman and Hans Empire, and then the Neolithic Revolution, which would do the concept of technology. And you could say, for context, you're supposed to do place and concept, so you would do both of these. And you would talk about how the city-states affected their ability to use technology, and then how the Neolithic Revolution acted as a precursor to this technological evolution. And then for your thesis, so for theses, I'll read you the definition, which is to present a thesis to make a historical defendable claim, and respond to all parts of the question. The thesis must consist of one or more sentences located in one place, either in the introduction or conclusion. So what you had here was, I really liked your the Hans and Roman Empire both believed that technology was crucial towards defense and innovation. So I thought that was a great overall summing of a thesis, but your theses should have 4 sentences. So this would be your overall, and then there should be 3 body paragraphs, which I know you only had 2, but there should be 3 body paragraphs, and the other 3 would be your topic sentences for each paragraph. So as we move on to your first body paragraph, Hans' attitude toward technology was that they should have the most advanced tools for the job. I thought that was a pretty good thesis. I think that you could develop it further, but I gave you the point. And if you wanted to develop it further, you would just say the Hans' positive attitudes towards technology and and the most advanced tools such as, and then name those tools. So when you do evidence, I know Ms. Poliski might have introduced this differently, but when we do evidence, we choose not to use direct quotes, and I see you did this pretty much throughout your entire paper, but we normally don't do direct quotes because you want to make sure that you're precise, and so if you use direct quotes, it takes longer to explain, and also it's easier just to sum up the main ideas. And then your analysis of this I thought was pretty good, because you said that the quote, tools provided for the poor, government should either stop. Okay, so it just kind of says how you believed that it meant that they should use the correct tools and the most modern standards, which was good. And then you didn't have any point of view for this document, so I didn't give you any. But the point of view is just kind of there's 3 types, and I know you kind of understood this later, but for point of view, you want to either explain the author's purpose, the audience, or the time period. So you could say something like, the author was writing this during a time period where they were encouraging the stopping of government on that type of control. And so that would be a good purpose. Okay, and then for another quote for support this claim was from document 3. And then you have the quote, which I have the evidence with a little question mark, because it's not as direct to use quotes, and they still work, but it's much more precise if you would just say, okay, let's see, like they believed that the pesticides and mortar were clever to increase the efficiency drastically. And this quote also provides the Han Dynasty improved work on old technologies and created new ones. I did not give you analysis for this because you want to add like a because. So you would say something like, this quote also proves that the Han Dynasty improved and worked on old technologies and created new ones by showing that, like, you could say something about, like, they wanted the government to stop controlling them so they could continue to make more and improvise, or improve, not improvise, on those. Okay. And then your point of view, the author of this document was a Han philosopher whose purpose is to inform the Han how the Hans improve their technology, which I thought was pretty good. You used the author's purpose like you did in most things. And then for this paragraph, for every paragraph, you need additional information. So additional information for this would be other types of technology they use. So you could say something like, they use like other forms of technology too, and they use these tools for some of the crops that they used, such as, I don't know, maybe rice, or they have like salt and iron, but I would include maybe a third thing to that. And then you also don't have complexity. And, I'll read you the outside evidence is the thing. Provide an example or additional piece of specific evidence beyond those found in one document to support the qualifying argument. Okay, and then complexity you didn't have either, which is to extend the argument by explaining the connection between the argument and one of the following: a development in a different historical period, situation, era, or geographical area, a course, theme, and or approach to history that is not the focus of the essay, such as a political, economic, social, structural, or intellectual, and then a different discipline or field of inquiry. So I think that it would be cool to, you know how like they encourage technology. You could say something about how China did kind of the opposite later on, how they wanted to, in the Industrial Revolution. You could do a lot with the Industrial Revolution and say how that was also increasing technology supported by the government. And then you could do something about how China didn't want to industrialize too, which would be an exception. Okay, so I gave you the topic sentence, which you would just have to add to your thesis to make it correct. But the Roman approach of technology was very important to their civilization, which is kind of not really that specific. If you wanted to really get those thesis points, you could say something. Their approach to technology was that technology was like, you could say it was encouraged by like this, and this way, or something like that. Or you could give examples of the technology. And then an example of this building of the aqueducts. So this was kind of like okay, because you introduced it later, like the document 8. But at the beginning, when I was just like marking up at first, I had to go through and find what document it was, which was kind of difficult. And so I think that it would be better if you just like said the first thing was like, if you use document 8, you want to say document 8 first and then do what it was. And then you also use quotes again, they were fine quotes, but I think it would be better, or I know it would be better, if you just summed up the main idea and then your evidence or your analysis was fine. And then I didn't give you POV because the author of this, I did give you POV, but I think you should work on it because the author of this quote from document 8 is informing of how vital the aqueducts are. So you could say like, because they support the aqueducts, there's not going to be like discouragements of the aqueducts, and they're going to show the positive sides without showing the negative sides. Okay, so for document 7, this section here, I gave you evidence, but I didn't give you analysis, because when you analyzed the evidence you used, oh, sorry, that was my dad. So when you analyze the evidence that you used, you didn't support your topic sentence. You just kind of analyzed it with what you wanted to do. So that didn't really count. And then for your point of view, you said the author was informing someone on he believed about technology. I gave you the point of view because you showed the author's perspective and the author's purpose, which was kind of one of the things that I introduced, and also kind of like the audience, because he was informing others. But I think that you could work on your point of view, because you want to make sure that you kind of give like a context more. So like it would be cool to see like a time period for this one when the aqueducts were really thriving. And then you said he is a reputable source as he was an upper class philosopher, which I wrote next to it was, this is definitely not necessarily true. We see in many documents how the upper class didn't want to write how like they suppressed the lower class, or they kind of wanted to do things benefiting themselves instead of benefiting others. So like if the aqueducts benefited the upper class but destroyed lower class homes or something like that, that would not be included in here. Which also here you didn't have any additional information and no complexity, which was already described earlier. And then I know that you were supposed to do it for the old document like rubric, but the additional document needed isn't necessary to include. And finally, you have the Hans and Roman people are very similar about technology, and then you included their differences. So overall, I gave you a 0 out of 7. Sorry about that. But you only used 4 of the documents, and because there was 8 documents used, I'm pretty sure you have to use 7 of them. But we encourage you to use 8. Actually, don't quote me on that, 7 of them. But you're encouraged to use 8 so that you can make sure you get all of those points in case you miss out on one of those points. And then you didn't have any context, which I showed, like I kind of explained to you how context was the what happened before, and then the analysis of the time period or the place and the concept. Yes. And then your thesis, it needs to be a 4-pronged thesis. And then your topic sentences were okay, but could have been worked on. For your evidence, I gave you the 4 points for evidence from each document. And I would encourage you to not use quotes, to be more like upfront and like simple. But other than that, they were pretty good. And then analysis, I only gave you 2 of the points because some of the analysis, one of them didn't, where was it? Here, no analysis because it didn't support the document, and then no analysis here either just because I don't really think you had any. You just had the quote, and then it proves, this was because you didn't explain why you analyzed it. Okay, thank you. And then point of view, I gave you 3 because you did do 3 points of views throughout your thing, but you need more. And then you didn't do any outside or additional information or complexity. So because you didn't get any full points, you got a 0 out of 7, but that's okay. You can definitely work on it and make it better for next year. And yeah, that's it. Thank you.